Hello, everyone. I've been getting messages from people in New Jersey asking me what is a good carry gun. Okay, so the reason why I'm getting messages all of a sudden from Jersey people is because a new court case came out. It said that the AR-15 ban is unconstitutional, but it also said that the 10-round magazine limit is constitutional. Okay, so I guess this is something that's in their minds, and all of a sudden, this had kind of been out of the news for a while, and then people that were maybe thinking about getting a carry permit, all of a sudden they're thinking about it again. So the question I've been asked is, what is a good choice for a carry gun? So we're working with a couple limitations here. Number one, 10-round magazine limit. Okay. Number two, when you get your carry permit, they actually list the gun that you're going to be carrying on your carry permit, right, with serial number, and you have to, when you take a qualification test, you have to qualify with that specific gun. Okay, and the reason I know this is because I've given those qualification tests. People were able to come to me, and I was able to give them the test. What I tell people is, I tell them go to the because I think that the state police is the one that's running this, right? But they're doing it locally. So go to the local office where you're going to be submitting your application, and make sure that they will accept the test from me, okay? Before I test you, okay? So that's what I tell people. So the limitations: number one, you're limited to a 10-round magazine. Number two is you get one gun. You may be able to get a second one, but you're gonna, the permit's gonna have one gun, and maybe you gotta get a second permit for a second gun. I don't know 100% how that works, but the gun has to be listed on your carry permit. And number three, we're dealing also with the sensitive places restrictions in New Jersey, and they're doing this on purpose to convenience people, to make them nervous about carrying guns. Because what happens is, if you get caught with a gun in a sensitive place, at the very least, they're gonna take your permit away, and they may actually they may arrest you and charge you criminally. Okay, now that's kind of gone back and forth with, is that legal? Is it not legal? Constitutional? Not constitutional? Last I heard, it was not. But this thing changes back and forth so often that a lot of people are just not comfortable. They're not sure. So the reality is, right, when in talking to New Jersey people, right, and this is not me telling them what to do, it's just what people are telling me that they're actually doing. They're getting the carry permits, but they're not actually carrying the guns because they're nervous about carrying it in the wrong place. Okay, again, it's unfortunate because that is the intention of the Democrats, right? They want to scare people out of carrying guns, and people should be pushing back against it. But it is what it is. This is what people are telling me, and I got to work with reality. Okay, so giving those limitations, 10-round magazine limit has to go on your permit, and they're not going to be carrying the gun most of the time. Okay, the gun that I've been recommending is a Glock 26. Okay, first of all, Glock 26, because even though you can get it with a flush 10-round magazine like I have here, it has the ability to take a large magazine, right? This is a 17-round magazine from a Glock 17. Okay, so this is like the bane of anti-gunners, right? The fact that small guns can take large magazines. Okay, so that's a good reason to get a Glock 26, because it can take a 17-round magazine. And again, I deal with reality. And people are telling me that, hey, they're traveling out of state, and what they're doing is they're purchasing like standard capacity magazines in other states, and then they're bringing them back home and hiding them. So obviously, this is not something that they're going to be carrying or using for normal everyday self-defense. This is like for an SHTF type of situation, where there's like complete breakdown. The governor is no longer in charge of the state. People, they have those 17-round, 30-round magazines, 33-round magazines in reserve. Okay, so that's the reality of it. Okay, so again, I deal with reality. So you want to have standard capacity magazines. Just don't don't be traveling with them, okay, in that kind of a state. And again, I deal with reality. This is not me telling people what to do. This is what people are telling me that they're doing, okay? So the Glock 26 has the ability to take standard capacity magazines. It's small enough, right? It's small enough that you can carry it, right, in inside the waistband and be able to sit down in the car seat, and the grip is not going to hit the seat behind you or the seat underneath you. Okay, so the Glock 26 is the largest gun I would consider for normal everyday carry. Okay, if I'm going to go to a larger gun, I'm like, at that point, like if I'm carrying a Glock 19, the Glock 19 is the backup gun to the AR-15. Okay, so if we get to that point where I'm actually carrying a Glock 19, I'm also carrying an AR. But a Glock 26, I mean, that's like, okay, there's riots happening, but they're a couple of hours away. Okay, they're not in my town. Okay. Now, if there's not riots happening anywhere, like my normal everyday gun is a Glock 43, okay? So the Glock 43 is a lot slimmer, a lot more comfortable, especially if you're driving, sitting in the car seat. However, the Glock 43 doesn't take, 17-round magazines, okay? So back in 2020, I wasn't carrying the Glock 43. I was carrying this guy here, right? And then I had this guy here. I had a few of these, stashed as backups, okay? So that's the reason why, like, a Glock 26 makes a lot of sense, I think, if you're in a situation like in New Jersey where you're limited to 10 rounds. There's like you can only have, let's say, 1, maybe 2 guns on your permit, and there's a good chance that you may not even be carrying the gun most of the time, okay? Because here in PA I carry gun every day, okay? So the gun has to be compact, Glock 43. But if your situation is such where you're only going to be carrying the gun sometimes, right? Like if you're out late at night going somewhere, or if you have to go into a bad area of town. In a situation like that, yeah, it kind of makes sense to carry a slightly bigger gun. Okay, you're still limited to 10 rounds, right? So it doesn't make sense to carry a Glock 19. In my opinion, it doesn't make sense to carry a Glock 19 that normally holds 15 rounds with only a 10-round magazine, okay? If I'm limited to 10 rounds, right, and that's what I'm going to be carrying, and the choice is the Glock 26 or the Glock 19, I'm going to carry the smaller Glock 26, okay? Now, one of the questions that a lot of times people say was, how about accuracy, okay? How much accuracy do you lose with the smaller gun? So usually with Glock 43s, which are smaller, what I find is that people, and I'm not talking about people like me that like shoot every day, but people that on average might shoot once a month or shoot once every 2 months. Okay, sometimes they'll, maybe even once every 6 months. People that rarely shoot have a hard time shooting small guns like Glock 43s or SIG 365s. When they step up to a Glock 26, I normally see a significant improvement, right? For this, again, for people that don't shoot often, I see a big improvement when they go from a Glock 43 up to a Glock 26, okay? Now, when they go from a Glock 26, let's say, to a Glock 19, yes, they do a little bit better, but it's not by a tremendously huge margin, okay? And then all of a sudden, especially if I change the magazine, right? And now all of a sudden they throw in a magazine like this. Well, now they have that extra grip here. So now that, that they pretty much shoot the gun almost as comfortably as a Glock 19. Okay, so there's a, with the Glock 26, it's a good place to be as far as, the gun is small enough that you can comfortably carry it, but big enough that you can comfortably shoot it, I think, okay? Now, people are going to debate about how comfortable or uncomfortable, Glocks are. For me, there's 3 criteria for choosing a gun. Okay, number 1, reliability, and it has to be police and military tested. Okay, so that's number 1. And there's lots of guns that are going to fall into that category. Glocks, SIGs, Berettas, Smith and Wesson. Okay. But my number 2 criteria is I need to have access to aftermarket parts. Okay, I don't want to have to. I don't want to be limited to going back to just the company to buy parts. I experienced that in 2020 with a lot of companies where, because I was so busy, I was breaking guns every day, training people. And what happened is with companies where I was limited to going back to the company that manufactured the gun, I had a real difficult time getting parts. Okay, with companies like Glock, where okay, yeah, fine, maybe Glock is sold out, but I can get aftermarket parts and the gun's up and running. Okay, and number three, right? So number one, reliability. Number two, access to aftermarket parts from other companies besides the manufacturer. And number three, knowledge to fix the gun. Okay, for me, I mean, the only guns I really know how to fix, and I mean by fix, like basically strip them down, build them all the way back up, AR-15s and Glocks. Okay, so those three criteria always brings me back to AR-15s and Glocks. Now, obviously, I own lots of other guns, but as far as guns that I would recommend as the primaries, those are the ones. So as far as accuracy, I very regularly practice at 30 yards, which is where that target is over there, with the Glock 26. Okay, let's take a few shots here. So probably a little bit better than 50-50. Okay, a little bit better than that. And sometimes I do a lot better than that. Now that target over there it's about half the size of a man. Okay, so it's basically 2 foot tall by 1 foot wide. Okay, that's at 30 yards. So I mean, I think that for Glock 26, which is a smaller gun, and sometimes I do a lot better, I think that's great accuracy, or very acceptable accuracy. At like 10 yards over here, I mean, I can go 10 for 10 almost every time. Okay, so those are my thoughts on that. Now let me touch real quick on this New Jersey case, right? Two things that came out of it: AR-15 bans are unconstitutional. First question people ask me is, and I've been asked is, does that mean I can take my AR-15 out of hiding and head over to the New Jersey gun range? And the answer to that is, I do not know. Okay, I do not know. That is a question that you need to ask a gun lawyer. Okay, and the gun lawyer doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, it's only $11 per month. Okay, the one I use is Lawshield. Okay, now these guys are state by state specific. So my guy is specific for asking Pennsylvania questions. So it's only $11 per month. You would basically go to the website, uscca.com. You would sign up for New Jersey in the drop-down menu, and then enter this promo code here, right? This promo code, Pocono Shooting, will get you either 1 month off, 2 months off, or $20 off. I don't remember what it is for New Jersey. It is different. The promo discount is different state by state, okay? But after the promo period, it's only $11 per month, okay? So for me, it's like a really cheap way to be able to ask gun questions, especially in an environment where the law is constantly changing, because the courts are going back and forth between kicking laws out, accepting new laws, saying that this law is constitutional, that other law is not constitutional. So they said that the AR-15 ban in New Jersey is unconstitutional. I suspect that they will try to pass a different law that doesn't outright ban AR-15s, but severely restricts it. All right, so you got to know exactly where that's going to fall, okay, and what those restrictions are going to be. And now the nice thing about that is, as long as you can have the AR, because remember, these things are like Lego sets, right? You can take them apart, put them together. As long as you can get it, as long as you have the ability to buy the lower receiver with the serial number, I mean, you can basically build that out to or buy it with whatever the to whatever the restrictions are in New Jersey. But then let's say if you're traveling out of state to a good state, to a free state, okay, you can quickly reconfigure that gun so that it is like a normal AR-15, okay? And I've seen people do this at Pennsylvania gun ranges. Right, well, they'll come in with these New York compliant or California compliant or some other state, compliant AR-15, and they'll sit down at a picnic table with tools, and they'll actually normalize the gun, okay? And then when they leave, they'll configure it back to whatever the restrictions are in their state. So that's the great thing about AR-15s. They are like Lego blocks that you can you can quickly reconfigure them. So yeah, you got to have a legal service where you can ask questions, get the answers in writing, okay, and then as these things change, like get updates, because you can send in an email every month and say, hey, what's going on this month? Has any changes to AR-15 law? Any changes on the magazine capacity? And the other thing the other way that's useful is if you're traveling, like let's say you're in New Jersey and you're traveling to a different state, right? You can find out, hey, I have a New Jersey or whatever state compliant AR-15, or if you're, let's say, in a state like Pennsylvania, you have a normal AR-15. Well, I'm going to this state. What states, like I'm going to be traveling through these states, am I legally protected, okay? And they might say, well, these states you can travel through. They'll give you like an itinerary. You can travel through these states, avoid those states. If you're going through these states, take apart the magazine, right? So because it can't be, it might be limited to 10 rounds. So that's another thing that you can do with because remember, these 10-round magazines, they usually start off as normal magazines, and then they're limited. Okay, so if you take apart the magazine, the magazine hasn't been built yet, basically. So anyway, a couple of things for you guys to think about. Drop some comments below. And like I said, it's for $10 a month. It's worth it to have a lawyer that you can email at any time and ask questions. Right? It's $10.95, right? $10.95, and that's the website, uscca.com, and the promo code is Pocono Shooting. Okay? So drop some comments below. I'll talk to you all soon. So I was not happy with that hit ratio I got before with the Glock 26. Let's try this again. 30 yards. A little bit better, but there's still room for improvement.